Welcome to the Today's Leader podcast. Building tomorrow's best leaders, today.
Way to go, guys. Way to go. Keep it going. Good job, guys. All right, Paul, I see you. All right, Trevor, finish. Let's go.
Great job, guys.
Hey there, it's Coach Curl here, and welcome to episode 414 of the Today's Leader podcast, Building Tomorrow's Best Leaders Today. Today we are in for another treat with another one of our wonderful experts sharing some massive insights to help you become a better leader. LauraHulleman is the creator of the Endotype Formula and a best-selling author of My Walk, My Way. She's a powerful truth teller. Her superpower is in helping people believe that being themselves as they are designed is more than enough. This really talks through so much more than just the authentic leadership conversations that many of us are having around workplaces. This is so much more. Because, as Laura says, once a person is grounded in their identity, they begin to operate from what she calls their zone of genius and experience peace and being better each and every day. It is a fascinating conversation because Laura spent years researching and recognizing the patterns that created the Endotype Formula, which is the most comprehensive and advanced personality assessment available right at this moment in time. Now, just a word of warning, we did have some internet gremlins affect the recording of this particular show, and especially for those that subscribe to my YouTube channel, you will see the impact, unfortunately. While Laura's video just didn't want to play the game, the audio is fine, but and also it really doesn't detract from the conversation. So after a word from our sponsor, it's my pleasure to bring to you LauraHulleman for the Today's Leader podcast.
The home of the Think and Grow Business Mastermind. If you're serious about growing your business, get serious and join a mastermind group today. Find out more at thinkandgrowbusiness.com.au.
And it's my pleasure to welcome to the Today's Leader podcast, Building Tomorrow's Best Leaders Today. Please welcome LauraHulleman. Laura, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
From all the way from Wisconsin, where 30 degrees is a great day, I've just found out.
Exactly. 30 degrees Fahrenheit. I think that's like 0 in Celsius, right? It's right about freezing.
Yeah.
So yeah. As we record today, it's right at freezing outside, and we're pretty excited about that right now.
Well, I think our temperature today here in Brisbane, Queensland, is going to be about the 28 degrees Celsius mark. So very lovely day ahead. So fingers crossed. Hey, Laura, share with our audience the LauraHulleman story.
Well, I live about 10 miles from the city that I was born, and kind of born and raised right here in Wisconsin. I became self-employed very, very early. I knew my dad had been self-employed as I grew up, and I knew that was kind of the path that I wanted to follow, but didn't really know which self-employment I wanted. So I've had about, 10 different careers and been pretty successful with all of them, but just trying to find out what was truly for me to do, and where it was truly for me to be. And that landed me kind of in the coaching industry. I started off as a fitness coach. I had a fitness training studio where I trained women, specializing around weight loss and really specializing around them taking responsibility and ownership for their own choices and owning their autonomy and who they were and having the life that they really wanted to have. And when that, and through the course of that, right, I thought I was just personal training.
Yeah.
And it was my clients who were coming in and they were calling it like workout therapy and like, you're my life coach. And I was like, no, I'm a trainer. Thanks. But people kept telling me over and over again. So I started looking at what this coaching thing really was.
Yeah.
And started to venture over into that realm. And then as my gym phased out, that kind of, I coached for a while. And from there, and from my curiosity about the people that I was coaching and my love of personality typing,
Yeah.
came the work that I do now, which is the Endotype Formula.
Yeah, and in all honesty, I hadn't heard of the Endotype Formula. So let's walk through that. What does that mean for the people that you work with?
Sure. So the Endotype Formula is a personality assessment, right? But it's a personality. It's one of the best personality assessments that's out there. I know I'm a little biased, but the reason I can say that is because a lot of the other personality assessments will look at one thing.
Yeah.
So like Myers-Briggs looks at how you think. DISC looks at kind of your orientation or how you act.
Yeah.
Enneagram looks at kind of what your motivators are. And the Endotype Formula layers all of those, kind of like transparencies back in high school or college.
Yeah.
And you'd lay one transparency down because we as humans are not just thinking beings or just feeling beings or just a body walking around here. It all connects together.
Yeah.
And so through really diving into personality assessments and reading this researcher and that researcher, I've been able to find the way that it all connects together to make a more complete picture of what a person is. So the Endotype Formula is now doing work in multiple fields. It's doing work in branding and it's working with coaches, which is where the majority of my work is to be able to help coaches utilize it to understand those clients better, to get inside the minds of those clients, to create marketing that attracts. And we're opening up the HR field and just for personal development, the Endotype Formula is an amazing tool.
So so we've got DISC, which is based around 4 central personality traits, and Myers-Briggs is something similar. What is the fun? And I understand the layering and the transparencies, and so what are there similar structure to endotypes, like 4 elements or 4 core competencies or behavioral traits?
Sure. The Endotype Formula, there are 16 different endotypes.
Okay.
And within those endotypes, how we think is kind of the least interesting part. To me, what's the most interesting part are these energetic and emotional cravings that we all have, but we have them in different people have them in different ways.
Yeah.
So we all want to be seen. We want to be heard. We want to have our own sense of autonomy and personal power and responsibility, or we want to have our own identity. We want to feel valued.
Yeah.
Different people crave those in different ways.
Yeah.
And so those cravings either line up on what I call our protection side, where they are massive cravings for us. We look first to other people to fulfill them. Then hopefully, if we've done enough personal development and leadership work, we look to ourselves. And then we realize, hey, maybe there's something bigger in this universe and I don't even need to fill this myself. Or those cravings line up on our possibility side, which is where we pour those out into the world.
Okay.
So from a leadership perspective, each of us have certain zones of genius that we pour out into the world that other people crave. And so we match up as coaches or as leaders. We stand for different things. For myself, I am in the endotype, right? As an endotype, I'm the lonely adrenal interpreter. And my superpowers
Yeah.
around voice messaging and making sure people feel heard and getting that message out there, and power, responsibility, personal autonomy. So those two things make up a lot of my work and a lot of my leadership style. Whereas on my craving side, I crave significance and I crave identity. And so those are the areas where I have to make sure I fill my
Okay.
cup and I'm
Wow.
doing okay. I'm doing well so that I
Yeah.
have what I need to pour into the world.
Wow. So it does sound pretty broad, I guess, and very specifically broad in respect of those different areas that you were speaking about. So I can understand the difference then, because I utilize DISC with my clients, and you become very adept at being able to talk through the major personality traits. But layering in on top of that, I would imagine has immense benefit. So someone listening to this and thinking that endotypes might be something of benefit for them, at what level or what stage of their leadership career would you suggest, or do you find people coming to you, I guess would be a better way. So are people advanced in their leadership, or are they emerging, or are they just, frontline leaders that just want to understand themselves a bit more?
So I tend to meet leaders where they're at. For those that are just kind of stepping into leadership and taking that first unsure step, I have written a book called My Walk, My Way. It's stories of women who decided to do life their own way, one step at a time, where we look at it from both an endotype and a personal story perspective. They can take the quiz. So anyone can take the quiz for free at endotype.com, download some guides, be able to understand themselves and their leadership a little bit better. I tend to work most frequently with those leaders who all of a sudden, maybe they've wanted it for a while, but they have that panic moment where it's like, I'm a leader. People are following me. And the thing I really don't want them to know is I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
doing. I'm kind of making it up as I go along. And all of a sudden they realize that they're being called to a bigger space, or that they have to improve those leadership skills, take ownership of them. And that all starts with knowing what
Yeah.
they are. And then the established leaders, people who have been doing it for a long time, who've done a lot of that self-evaluation work, those are generally the people that I partner with, who see the endotype formula as a tool they can use inside their business, inside their industry. And then we can create more of a collaborative relationship.
It certainly does sound fascinating, and I guess leadership is more aware and more open to things like personality profiling and what you're discussing with the endotype formula. But there are some hardcore traditional leaders that would probably look at something like this and say, how is this going to help my bottom line, and maybe even get a bit resistant to it. Do you see, how do you work with those people, if you work with those people?
So I don't tend, what the interesting pattern, okay? So I'm the pattern finder as far as people go. There's an interesting pattern that there are certain endotypes, certain personality types that don't want to take the quiz, that don't value that bit of information. But those are the same people who generally want to know how all of those people over there work. I don't need to know how I work, but I want to know how those people over there work. And so for those people, I put out a fair bit of content onto YouTube, onto my Facebook, so that they can come and kind of browse anonymously and start to see whether or not this has value. And for some personality assessments, they really truly don't believe in them. They don't believe that they have value or merit. Those are not my people. Those aren't the ones that I'm trying to work with or convince otherwise. Either life will convince them otherwise or not.
There is a shift happening, but isn't there? There's a paradigm shift towards leaders really understanding their own inner workings, whether that's, I've had leadership experts talk about tapping into your unconscious, your subconscious. It's very hard.
Yeah.
Whereas I personally talk about being conscious as a leader and being intentional about what it is that you want to create and who it is that you want to be. But what I'm seeing is a real drive towards this understanding your authentic self and how that impacts positively within organizations. And obviously the Endotype Formula is part of that process.
Right. Yeah. I actually asked this question of Mel Robbins. I got a chance this year to talk with her, and I had asked her if, she's kind of a like, get to it, move your butt, count down from 5 and get to it, action oriented person. And I asked her what she thought about personality assessments and if she had a favorite. She's very gracious, asked me if I had a favorite. And she said, look, here's what I think about personality assessments. She goes, ultimately it is about taking action, but we need to understand who we are to understand the action that we take. And as humans, Mel's words, right? We're kind of crap at self-awareness. And I was like, right. We think we understand ourselves, but we really see through lots and lots of lenses that we need to kind of remove and see what's underneath and go, the Endotype Formula helps us to go, somebody can take it and I can look at their endotype chart and go, your imposter syndrome probably sounds like this. And they're like, yeah, how do you know that? Because it's part of your design. It serves a purpose, but you don't know its purpose yet. And so you've been calling it imposter syndrome this whole time and just trying to overcome and ignore and move past it. So getting in there to understand what these thoughts are in our head or why we keep doing that thing that we know really doesn't serve us as a leader, understanding that and normalizing it allows people to then make choices around it. So for me, I'm not a very precise endotype. Details tend to slip past me. Knowing that about myself, I choose as a leader to hire on people who are very detail oriented and who can take care of the details, the logistics, all the big picture, or I can be the big picture. They can be the micro detailed, making sure everything's taken care of. But first, what I had to accept was I really stink at details. And I don't love that about me, right? Because I've been told, right, those papers would come back in school with those marks on them that aren't so great. But I can't change it about myself. So I'm done wasting time changing. I've accepted this about myself, and now I can move forward still accomplishing detailed work, but just through the people around me.
And it's not like you stop working on it. It's part of the process, but understanding that that's a work in progress and that it's best to, if I need that work right now, it's best to get someone in that's going to be that way. And I was having a giggle because the people that I've worked with as their leader, many times have provided that feedback back to me quite honestly, that Tony, you're really good at the big picture stuff. Can I tell you, you're pretty ordinary at the detail. And it's I didn't need an Endotype Formula assessment because one of the things I was always conscious of is getting really good, valuable feedback from the people I lead, and they were good at providing it. So I was just having a laugh because it was a really big picture of myself that you were speaking to as well. One of the things about leadership, right? So, and John Maxwell says it quite honestly. If you're the smartest person in the room, get into another room. You're in the wrong room, that sort of thing. But a lot of leaders look at other leaders with judgment or comparison or those types of traits. How does the endotype formula help them with that? Because I would imagine if I'm comparing myself to, say, the CEO of a top one of the top companies here in Australia, I'm probably going to do myself a bit of a disservice and make myself feel pretty shitty. So how does the
Right.
endotype formula work with leaders in respect of, you want them to stretch, but you don't want them to be part of this comparison where they're potentially putting themselves down?
So when it comes to leaders, I think that one of the challenges with comparison is I can't be like anyone else, right? If I look at, I want to be like Mel Robbins. I want to be like Brene Brown. I want to be like Tony Robbins or Tony Curl. I can't be you. And if I'm constantly comparing myself to someone else, what that does in terms of leadership is it prevents people from stepping into leadership. They continue to play a small game. Because I can't live up to that standard that I'm looking for. In life, as humans, we tend to put ourselves on this up and down scale. There's these people who are above me, better than me, and there's these people who are below me that I am better than. But and that's where comparison comes. Better than, less than. But what we need to understand is it's all this flat plane. In terms of humans, we are all just having this human experience right now. It's all flat. I am here with certain skills. You're there with certain skills. These skills some people need and would like us to lead them into their next experience, right? Would want us, need us as leaders. It doesn't make us better than or less than. And only by doing it our own way can we really be the leader that people are looking for.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, doesn't it? It really is about understanding each and every one of us as an individual, having that self-awareness that traditionally we're crap at, and being able to work within our, you mentioned the word genius zone before. I mean, that's a word that's a concept that's becoming more and more evident. We all have our strengths. We all have our genius zone, so to speak. And for us to be comparing our genius zone to somebody else's genius zone is probably going to be incredibly counterproductive for us.
Exactly. It limits us. It keeps us small and operating in a field or in a place as far as leadership goes that we're just not meant to be.
Laura, who's inspired you in your journey?
I'm glad I knew this question was coming because I had some time to think about it, right? As in terms of leadership, probably I grew up and am still in a very Christian faith-based religion where personal Bible study is very, very strongly recommended. I think a lot of my leadership influences come from come from studying that example from a very, very early age. Now, the example of Jesus and the other kings of the Bible and whatever, and seeing that compassion and seeing the straightforwardness and all of those things. In terms of more secularly, I'm a big fan of Brene Brown. I know I already mentioned her, but I think she is, she's one of those, I feel her reluctant leadership. She didn't necessarily step in and go, I'm going to be this leader. She did a TED Talk and then all of a sudden people were following her. And she was like, oh no, what have I done? And she is a lady that really walks her talk, which I really value.
And Brené's one of those people that has had quite an amazing impact right around the world, and it's powerful when you can see someone have that impact in such a humble way, I believe, and I think that just adds to it. So
yeah.
What about failure? Tell me about your relationship with failure.
Oh, failure and I have a relationship that goes way back. Yeah. Probably one of my biggest failures was I had talked about owning that personal training studio and gym, and I was closing that up because it just wasn't working for me anymore. It wasn't. I was closing that while going through a very unpleasant and tumultuous divorce. And after those two things kind of ended simultaneously, I was left really in a like, what the heck just happened? My whole, all my identifiers as a person, all my roles that I was identifying with were suddenly gone. And I had to figure that out. So right after that, I had been at a workshop and failure came up, and we were like calling it the F word, and like failure. Couldn't hardly get the words out, and it carried that like heaviness that I think it does for a lot of people for a while, until I really learned how to move past and through that and continue to just put one foot in front of the other and trust the process and trust that I can only see 3 steps ahead of me. Like a lot of people, I would love to know what the next 5 years is going to bring, but I don't. I know the next 3 steps, and I know from there I'll be able to see the next 3 steps. And does it still come up? For sure. We were launching the branding division of Endotype Formula like a couple weeks ago here. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, what if it stinks? Like, what if I've just spent this year developing this whole division and it just doesn't work? All those feelings came back, right? And I just had to sit with them knowing that we've put a ton of research into it and that it does work. We've already tried it with people, but it comes up. And so for me, it's a matter of going, okay, hi friend, like you're back and we're going to feel our way through this. And we're still going to put one foot in front of the other tomorrow.
Great way to think about it. And one of the things, unfortunately, I see so many people do, Laura, is that they failure stops them from even trying. And you made mention of, I'd love to know what the next 5 years would look like. Part of me sort of thinks a lot of people would still not get up off their chair and get stuff done. If they knew what it would look like, and there's an old saying, what would you try if you knew you would not fail? And I reckon a lot of people just still wouldn't do anything. Because every now and again we all have those feelings. What's the point? Why should I bother? And I think that maybe some of those feelings of apathy may actually override a clear vision for what it is that we can do. So just a personal opinion and just a personal thought. So what's the vision for you? What does that look like?
So I have 2 teenage sons. So personally, we are looking forward to a time where we can do a little bit more traveling. We love adventure. We love having fun. And this last couple of years, we've been sitting in the house a whole lot more than we like to, with some forced quarantining in there every once in a while. So a lot more adventure and travel while they are still young, and as they continue to mature. For myself, it's going to be more speaking opportunities and speaking a little bit further and further. With the Endotype Formula, we're launching our branding division this year. We're also launching some coaching courses, helping those coaches really dig into knowing what they uniquely do, and not even knowing, because we all know we do something uniquely. We all know we have this unique talent, but how do you explain that so that other people understand what it is? How do you take ownership of that unique talent that you have and really ground yourself into it? So we're rolling with that. And then towards kind of the third quarter, fourth quarter of this year, we have another book coming out about the Endotype Formula that'll really dive into it a little bit more and help explain how it works to people.
That'll be excellent. Laura, how can people connect with you?
Well, they can find me, LauraHulleman, on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and the Endotype Formula on most of those social media platforms as well. And if they want to take the quiz and learn more about the Endotype Formula, it's endotype.com, ENDOTYPE. And they can always pick up the book, My Walk, My Way, and learn more about it.
Excellent. Laura, it's been a pleasure having you today on the Today's Leader podcast. Thank you for investing in today's leaders.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And now, it's time for Tony's 2 cents.
We have a myriad of profiling tools available to us. We've got DISC, we've got Myers-Briggs, we've got team management systems, we've got heaps of them. And they're all available to you as a leader. And they all work. They all do what they're designed to do. And many of you may be believing that maybe the Endotype Formula is just another one. Where this one differs and creates a differentiating advantage is that it encompasses so much more than just personality, communication, and the other skills that we usually associate with things like DISC. As a human being, we are made up of our physical body, our energy, our deep emotions, and our thoughts. And the combination of these 4 elements create who we are. They combined, and those 4 elements combine to form what is known as our endotype. Now, this is the difference. So it's physical body, energy, deep emotions, and thoughts. And there's not another assessment tool like it that combines those 4 into giving you a pretty detailed understanding of who it is that you are and potentially who it is that you're working with. I know that you've taken some amazing insights away from our conversation today. And as always, Laura's details are in the show notes. If you're looking to build better leadership skills, check out the Today's Leader website at todaysleader.com.au. We really are driving a leadership revolution to build tomorrow's best leaders today. Today's Leader is a collective, the mindset to make a difference, the ability to create an impact. Think and Grow Business hosts our Today's Leader Mastermind. Think and Grow Business, where we focus on personal, professional, and business growth. Book your free 30-minute discovery call right from the homepage at thinkandgrowbusiness.com.au. Don't forget, wherever you are standing stronger, braver, and wiser. Don't forget the golden rule. Don't be an arsehole. I'll see you all again next week. Bye for now.